We've been working with Everett for some time, so what you're seeing is a race in mid-stride here. Everett is very serious about the work they do, not somber, but very serious, very dedicated to meticulous conversation, well-posed questions, and patient listening. So they've been evolving work on the themes that we're going to address tonight, and the evolutions will continue. Please do come back on November 15th, I think 8 o'clock? 4 p.m. Here? Yes. Come back 11:15, 4 p.m. here. You'll see a work in progress showing of a bigger piece that they've done. But these conversations are very much a part of it, so, and you're so much a part of the conversation, so welcome.
I'm not supposed to see the ghost, but they peek at me through floating fragments of dimensions, and I can see them. Like I'm not supposed to see red-tailed hawks perched upon highway lampposts in the form of Sankofa. Like the message doesn't exist. Like my next move won't matter. Like my America is not killing black boys and letting white men walk away with murder. Like I'm not supposed to speak upon the ghost I see peeking at me from floating fragments of dimensions. Like blue uniforms flashing 4th of July. Behind me is not a profile. Like race is not a factor when white men capitulate to the urge to create ghosts out of black boys. Like anyone who speaks about beings other than angels and God is crazy. Like it's crazy white men have an urge to make angels out of black boys. Like it's okay to make angels out of black boys. Like calling white men devils is racist. Like race is not a factor in the murder trial. Like all black boys dream of one day flying like angels. Like it's okay to make angels out of black boys. Like it's my fault I can see ghosts. Like red-tailed hawks perched upon highway lampposts in the form of Sankofa. Like I'm not supposed to see the message peeking at me like ghosts. Floating through fragments of dimensions like a mirror. Shattered and scattered across air. Like I know my next move matters. When blue uniforms, 4th of July, America behind me. Like I know not all white men are devils. Just the ones making angels out of black boys and walking away with murder. Like white men with the urge to make ghosts out of black boys is crazy. Like I'm not supposed to relay the message. Like the message doesn't exist. Like I'm not all broken hero or shattered Haru or no Jonah, just Geppetto in the belly of the ghetto. Like ghosts of murdered black boys peeking at griots through floating fractures of shattered dimensions. Griots like poets who should be more like prophets like Jonah, not Geppetto in the belly of the ghetto, but prophets seek prophets and the message gets distorted, shattered like pieces of mirrors, scattered through air, shattered ghost of broken toys, wanting to be real boys. The ghost, they peek at me, speak to me about missing, spreading wings on bikes, flying like angels to mothers' kisses, buttermilk biscuits, and after-school dances. Go speak to me, bragging of top of key flight like angels and b-ball pickup and puppy love machismo. Ghost, magic penny wish toss soul into well universe for me to become man, not boy, with dreams of flying, shattered. Like I can be one of them, like my next move doesn't matter, like I'm not supposed to see the message God graffitied in blue sky, white cloud, and red-tailed hawk perched upon highway lamppost in the form of Sankofa, that white men with the urge to make ghosts, make black bodies fly like angels. Warning, my next move matters because America is flashing 4th of July in rearview mirror, eyes full of ghosts. Life is unobtainable for black boys, better born angels.
I think the way to raise scores is to make the standards and curriculum harder. Little children sit for 8 or 9 hours of tests, and the harder the standards get, the higher the failure rate goes.
The school resources officer didn't call me as a parent, didn't call the other little girl's parents. She didn't tell the principal, the assistant principal, counselor, anybody.
We stopped talking about the needs of the kids. Poverty, difficulties at home, drug and alcohol addiction, childhood trauma, anything that affects the kids because they're humans. We stopped talking about all that. And we started talking about test scores, and your children and my students became data points.
Then the police officer arrested my daughter, put her in handcuffs. They had them taken away in a police car, processed them as if they were adults, and then put them in the criminal justice system.
The criminal justice system works on efficiency. They don't want you to muck up their works. They don't want you to stop, look, wait a minute, this person looks different from that other person.
The superintendent was surprised to hear there are so many arrests happening in all the schools.
The SATs might just as well be known as the student affluence test.
We don't want to talk about race. We don't want to talk about difference. We don't want to talk about the judicial system. We want to hide it so nobody knows what's happening.
You can play like you're immune to it, but you're not. If you're white, there's something called white privilege.
I couldn't be more convinced of the folly of entrusting decisions about America's teachers, students, and schools to an industry that is entirely invested in making a profit.
We're not surprised that black students are overrepresented when it comes to arrests and suspensions. 19% of arrests, 30% of suspensions.
It creates jobs, man. Do you not understand how many people we can take out the workforce by incarcerating them? And how many jobs we can create by making sure that those people stay where they are? It's a serious moneymaker, man.
When I was a really good teacher, I didn't have curriculum to follow. There were skills to learn, certainly. And the kids learned those. And they wrote, and they read, and they read, and they read, and they wrote.
When my students tell me I have nothing to write about, I tell them there's always something to write about.
We are the most over-tested nation in the world, and the benefits go to the testing corporations like Pearson and McGraw-Hill, not to the children.
I used to be a really, really good teacher. Now, I sort of just feel like I'm getting by all the time.
5% of the world's population.
Rule number 3, exhaust the thought.
25% of the world's prisoners. It's a national shame.
Say it with me, exhaust the thought.
Exhaust the thought.
Come on, you could do better than that. Exhaust the thought.
Exhaust the thought. Exhaust the thought. Exhaust that thought.
We are the most over-tested nation in the world.
Exhaust that thought. Exhaust the thought.
And my job's right. About 85% of the kids at the Rhode Island Training School have had a mother or father or both of time in prison. 85%.
Exhaust the thought. Exhaust that thought. Exhaust.
It all plays into your psyche when you come into the classroom and have to deal with all these black and brown children.
Exhaust the thought. Exhaust that thought.
You might just stop writing. Give up on your brilliance right before your light blinds the world.
Exhaust the thought.
You
Exhaust
can't
that
just
thought.
blame teachers and say they're not doing their jobs. Kids need to eat.
The Providence school system is 82% white teachers.
I can't solve that problem.
When it comes to childhood poverty, we are #1 in the industrialized world.
Not in my classroom.
If you don't like what you are writing, find a better way to write it in the next line.
I was a juvenile corrections officer for about 5 years, born and raised in Providence. See, right after undergrad, a friend of mine was like, "Yo, Abe, this is where the money at, B, juvenile corrections." Boom, so I jump in, and I'm making money. See, I'm a teacher by trade, but the money was over there, so I went, because I had never seen so much money before.
When I was a really good teacher, there was no curriculum that I had to follow. There were skills, certainly, and they learned those, and they wrote, and they read, and they read, and they read, and they wrote.
So I decided to go a little step further and teach a night reading class at the ACI. Lo and behold, a lot of those guys at my night reading class at the ACI, their kids were in the training school. See, something's just not right. You know that gut feeling?
How do you... 82 or 83% of teachers in the Providence School District are white women. How do you reconcile? How do you reconcile when you come into the classroom and you have these stereotypical misconceptions of black children? I'm not saying you.
And my gut was right. About 85% of the kids at the Rhode Island Training School have had a mother or father or both do time in prison. 85%.
I know how to teach with every cell of my being, and I want to do it.
So I had these kids, right? They did some very, very bad things, all right? I'll just say homicide, but I'm not going to get into any specifics. I'm like, wow, kid, that's crazy. Very young individuals. So I'm like, well, 85%, right? Let me see if their parents show up in the system. Boop, 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 boop. Sure enough, their parents did time. Now let me see if these kids' grandparents did some time. Boop, 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 boop. Sure enough, grandparents showed up.
A lot of the problem lies with just that, you know? You come in the classroom and you're automatically afraid. Not you.
We talk, we listen. Let me tell you, for middle school, that sounds a lot easier than it is. It depended on who was in front of you, and there was no limit.
All of this plays into your psyche when you come into the classroom and deal with these black and brown children. You have all these notions in your head about the children there before you. So you're certainly not standing up there giving your best as if you were in Barrington or Bristol with all the children that look like you.
Then keep writing. If you are extending the metaphor, push it as far as you can, then push it even more.
When I was able to be an effective teacher, I got to know my kids for about a month. Every year for the first month of school, I played games with my kids. We got to know each other as human beings.
I don't mean all white women. I didn't assume. There's plenty of teachers like you who, right? I kept saying not you.
You might just give up on writing. You might just stop writing altogether. Give up on your brilliance right before your light blinds the world.
But Mr. Johnson, I thought you were supposed to be teaching us about writing. Why does it sound like you're just preaching to us about life?
Because these are the rules I live by.
My district is in frantic efforts trying to maintain compliance with unfunded mandates from the Department of Ed in this state, which is frantically trying to maintain compliance with federal mandates, which are also unfunded, and we're spinning. We're spinning. For the past 7 years, we've been spinning. We changed the curriculum and we changed the test. We changed the curriculum and we changed the test. And I've really been in earnest with my colleagues, trying to do the right thing for our schools, our principals, our kids, and everything. And it just feels like we're failing everybody. I'm exhausted, trying to put stupid things together that just don't make any sense. They don't make any sense for the kids. They don't make any sense for me. I look at what I used to be able to teach. I can't teach it anymore. And it's not rocket science. It's not rocket science. It's taking these fabulous kids in our classrooms and listening to them and figuring out, like that little boy, why he can't pay attention in class. Well, maybe it's because you're asking him to sit still. Maybe he can't read because he's too stressed out and he's worried about mom and he doesn't know where he's going to sleep. Or grandma just died, or mom has cancer. What do you do when you don't know what's going on inside of the kids? You discipline, you punish, you punish, you punish. You send them out of the classroom. And then you've started that cycle. But where does it end?